Empower 11, the best of its kind in a highly transformative time. Are you empowered? Ready to turn your life up to 11? Awaken the life of who you are on the inside to match the life you were meant to live on the outside. Empower 11. Now is your time.
Empower 11 Radio.
Welcome to Empower 11 Radio. I am Ann Ribley, and today I am excited to share with you a rebroadcast of a powerful show, Evolve versus Revolve. It's such a relevant topic as we start this new year with ambitions of change. You know, the question we face as one year concludes and another year begins is, did we evolve more into our desired life that we really aspire towards? Or did we revolve with the same patterns back into the same place over and over again? I invite you into our conversation as we kickstart this new year with the clarity on knowing the difference on how to evolve ourselves rather than revolve.
Greetings and welcome to Empower 11 Radio. I am Jack Voorhees, and I'm sitting next to the beautiful and talented and amazingly awesome Ann Ribley.
Well, hello there, Jack Voorhees. You're pretty amazing yourself, actually being the coolest guy in marketing and being so talented and brilliant with all your genius and your way to break down things into valuable nuggets, which I'm really excited about today's show, because the name of today's show came out of a conversation Jack and I were having about life patterns and the processes of life. And when he said, you know, it's really a question, are we revolving or are we evolving? I'm like, wow, Jack, that's pretty powerful.
Right on. So today is June 20th, 2012, and it is a beautiful day here in Santa Barbara, California. Gorgeous and sunny. And we're looking out at from our studio onto a beautiful fountain in the sunshine.
And a Japanese maple that's just shining.
Right. Couple of things. You can always get more information about Empower 11 at empower11.com. And we love hearing the feedback. We love hearing your comments, questions, and all that you're about. So drop us a line at info@empower11.com. And you can always catch us on iTunes. You can catch us on Spreaker. And also now you can check out our Empower Wealth album. Our Empower Wealth album is up and available on iTunes and Amazon. And it's ready for your download. So go and check that out. A little bit of interesting news. We made one of the top 100 podcasts in Spain, so that's pretty cool. We're digging that, and all the feedback that we've gotten, and the people that have embraced the Empower 11 Wealth album and have listened to the inspirational audios and the meditational audios for 11 days consecutively. We're getting some really positive feedback. You'll also check us out on Facebook, and there's some interesting YouTube videos we have out there as well. So check that out.
The Empower Wealth album, I just want to say real quick, it's designed to get us into more of this evolving energy versus this revolving relationship with wealth.
Right on. So before we start this conversation, I want to ask you a question, Ann.
Oh boy.
So
this is live, everyone, and a lot of times when we do this show, I have no idea what he's going to throw at me.
Yes. So we have a live 1 hour show. We're here every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. and yeah, it's live, so it's kind of cool. I can just kind of catch Ann and get her by surprise and everything. So anyway, I wanted to ask you, what inspires you to be doing what you're doing? Putting together these inspirational, and transformative programs, and doing this radio show, and your writing, and people work with you who, people are always calling you and asking your advice. And so what inspires you to do what you do?
I would say one of the biggest motivators I have is that I think a lot of people are living broken or fragmented lives and pieces of themselves. And I always talk about the difference, these broken pieces, how to make this whole again to where we are at peace and in tune with this life that we want to live on the inside, and having it be a match with the world that we're experiencing on the outside. So it's very motivating to see people get into their own natural state again, where there are that wholeness. I heard a story once, and it had this really profound effect on me, and it was about this very wealthy man, and he went to this old guru sage, and he was looking for enlightenment, and he said to him, I've brought you these expensive piece of jeweled scissors, and in exchange for you to give me some of your enlightenment. And he said, I have no need for them. And he's like, yeah, but they're valuable. They have diamonds and emeralds and rubies on these. These are the finest tool you can have in its craftsmanship of, expensiveness and value. And he said, I have no need for scissors. All I need is a needle. And he's like, a needle? I'm willing to give you these expensive scissors that you can do whatever you want with. And he said, things have already been cut up enough in our world and in people around us that I have no need for scissors. What I need is a needle, because I'm bringing things back together. And so that was his gift of enlightenment to this wealthy seeker who was looking to get something from this old ancient sage guru. And it's this idea of, that's what inspires me within Power 11, and is this idea of getting whole again and removing these fragmented pieces of us.
I think that many people are searching for what's missing, inside of them, and they're looking for it on the outside. And I know it all happens from it all comes from the inside first. And it's interesting to watch people and the dynamics, and just the way we're kind of taught in society about, this will make you feel good. Take this pill, eat this stuff, buy this car. This car is a status symbol, and then it'll make you feel this way. But so often people get all these outside things that they thought would bring them this fulfillment, only to find that they still have this emptiness inside.
Yeah, there's definitely an overlay culturally that's laid on us of what is the symbols that we have arrived in this life that has validated us. And when we can get into this place where we validate from the inside, because we are a child of God, a child of the universe, with all this beauty and grace and gifts and talents to give to the world, and that validation comes from the truth of that voice, where it's in good karmic alignment, then our life becomes validated from the inside out, where that respect and that honor of life and the gift of who we are is validated upon itself within us. And it just naturally goes out into the world with how we represent ourselves and interact with our world. And I truly believe that's where we begin to experience all these outside wonderful experiences.
Who was that director that released that documentary You know the one I'm talking about?
Tom Shadyac, I think is his name, and he was the one who did the movies,
Liar Liar.
and Ace Ventura, and some of those funny. Gosh, there's another one, but it's some of those funny movies like that. And he had achieved like extraordinary acclaim in the Hollywood world, which a lot of people think, well, once I get there and I achieve this, I'm going to have all these. I'm going to feel validated in my life. And he had the big house, and he had every bit of Hollywood prestige and money. And finally, when he was in his one Beverly Hills home, he realized.
Yeah, it was after he had just moved into this huge home, and the movers had just left, and then he felt lonely and he felt unfulfilled.
And that's when it got him in the pursuit of doing the movie I Am. But that was after an incident that he had a brush with the life and death, the fragility of life that caused him to go out on a documentary and do the movie I Am. Oprah even featured and did an interview and everything. It's a very inspiring movie about how, we can get into this truth of who we are. And real quick, and the other interesting, I just, in conversation, just talking about all these elements of, really getting real inside of ourselves so that the real life spills from the inside out of us, instead of trying to take this world that we think is the real life on the outside that we got to arrive at and try to fill it on the inside. And I was sharing with Jack when we were having this discussion, a Kanye West song, and it was Pinocchio Boy. And it was in this, it's really interesting when you follow someone like Kanye West, who's this, huge mega hip hop star and has all the things that, we attribute to what would validate an extraordinary life in these outside circumstances. And if you follow his story on Pinocchio Boy that he wrote, he was like, there's no Gucci he can buy, there's no vacation he can buy to give himself this real life inside. And he talks about how the real love and the real life he had was before he had all these things. And now, how does he find his way back? And it's almost like Pinocchio's stories about how he's not even living that real life anymore.
So moving on to our discussion for today, and it's all about evolving versus revolving. The thing is, it may feel like we are evolving. We're spending this energy, to move into this better place, but all too often we can get stuck into these holding patterns, these like circular things. Like we feel like we're moving forward, but yet the same things keep happening to us, and we keep experiencing these same obstacles. And it brings me to a story or a personal experience that I've had is, when I first got into recovery, and I've been I've been now sober for over 14 years, and when I first got in, there was a group of us. I mean, there was a bunch of us that came in at the same time, and we were very tight-knit. We did these at least 90 meetings in 90 days, so you're sitting at the same tables with the same people, bearing the very intimate truths of who you are, and you can become very close very quickly. And we were all helping each other. We were all we were doing step study courses together. We were calling each other. We were checking in with each other. Very, very supportive group, and I'm very grateful that I had that. That was something that I needed. It was invaluable. But as time went on, what seemed to happen is sponsors became co-signers, and sponsees became like groupies, and it became cliquey, and it was a change had happened where we weren't getting the results like we got in the beginning. The dynamics had all started to change, and it was actually that we were getting stuck, because when when we once were able to tell each other honest truths and be very objective and have a different outlook, it's like we almost became too far in the forest to see the trees. And it wasn't, this circle of friendships and stuff became limiting.
Stagnant in its growth.
Yeah.
And that can happen. I mean, this is a dynamic that is very prevalent in our humanity. When Jack and I were getting to know each other before we had become a couple and a partner together, and we were getting to know him, and he was sharing some of the betrayal, hurts, dynamics that happen when we have really close, intimate circles of friends. And as he was describing the feelings, and I was saying to him, wow, I went through something very parallel and similar. His was in this group of friends that they started out in recovery with, and mine was with a group of friends that we started out in our early 20s, and we were doing, spiritual seminars together, and there was a lot of deep sharing and intimate and vulnerability that was shared, and we all were starting out where we were going to change the world and go out and build these great careers. And then through time, the same sort of morphing into this stagnated revolving energy started to happen. And I know for myself, I had to be willing to evolve out of that energy, or I would still be in it. And what is interesting is that there's elements to that group of friends that it has just duplicated itself in the same sort of dynamic again. And this is what we'll see in our lives when we're revolving. We think we're actually evolving because we're with a new set of people and we're with a new set of circumstances, but it's the same energy pattern. And so we're reduplicating and revolving into the same energy pattern with the same results. And then we look at it like 5-10 years later, it's really the same point. And so I am really appreciative. So what had felt like some of these really painful, lonely times was my life evolving to a much grander and expanded place for myself personally.
And I find that when I am moving forward, it's very hard to go backwards. When you're moving forward, it's and you're not leaning too far forward. You're not leaning too far back. You're being in the place of who you are, and you're just continuing on this spiritual growth journey. It's a very good place to be. However, it can what it looks like, what it feels like, is not always what it really is, and that's why slowing down and taking a few steps back and looking at what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. Does this make sense? I mean, these are the self-awareness is so important, because it takes as much energy to keep moving forward as it does to keep revolving. You're still spending the same amount of effort. So we need to make sure that we have this clarity, that we're staying purposeful in our actions and our thoughts and in our journey.
Well, I want to talk real quick about this leaning forward or leaning backward. It's like we fragment our energy and our empowerment and our ability to influence an expanded, evolving version of ourselves when we're leaning back, which is like being in the past, leaning forward, somewhere out in the future that's not in the now, and we don't embody the fullness of our own empowerment when we're not present. And that's where the evolving, expanding empowerment happens, is when we are full on in this present moment. It reminds me, this morning we had a couple of incidences happen with our kids, but it's like life on demand. This is what happens when you have kids around. It's like you can't put it on pause. It's on demand. Well, my 11-year-old got bit by a spider this morning. And that wouldn't be like such a big deal, but 5 years earlier, when he was like 5 or 6, he got bit by a spider, which then caused like 6 weeks of reactions in his body, where he had hives, he went through fever. And so today, when he got bit, immediately he went into more of like this revolving kind of energy, like the same, it's going to be the same, it's going to be the same type of thing. And he was scared. And what Jack had said is, you're a different person today. Your body weight is different today. You have grown. You've experienced more. Your life has experienced more. And your experience can be much more evolved and does not have to be the same as this reaction that took place at that time period in your life. And sure enough, he has survived, and and his body didn't go into a whole reaction. And, that seems so little, but it's that experience of even Jack being able to tell him it doesn't have to be the same thing again, even though we can have these triggers that can happen that feel familiar, but we can also give ourselves permission to be in the now and not be leaning back, not be leaning forward, which would be, this is what happened in the past, this is what I'm going to worry about that's going to happen in the future, but be really fully present in the now.
We just had Father's Day, and there's a woman that I know. I've spoke about her before, and I've known her since middle school days, and her father died, and her father died young, and she felt like life really cheated her out of this, not having a father kind of thing, and she posted on Facebook that not a day goes by that she does not cry over the loss of her father. And that is just, I don't believe that her father would have wanted her to cry for him every day. Your parents should want you to have your best life, to live your best life, and support you in that. And they wouldn't want you to mourn them every day. And you see, it's caused her a lot of issues in moving forward in her life. In fact, she has the exact same hairdo that she had, that I remember her in high school. She's like, nothing is like changing, nothing is evolving. It's just, it's just kind of stuck. Like her whole thing and her whole life feels like it's in this holding pattern.
Well, you can see it. Okay, so you can see it physically on her. She hasn't changed her hairstyle. She hasn't changed a lot. And, what's really tricky is in all of us is these energy patterns where we can't see them so physically represented, but they are energetic patterns that are strong in our lives, and then they do just keep showing up in the same sort of result or interaction. You're totally qualified to talk about this topic of this woman who lost her father early, because Jack, you had the same experience in its own different dynamic where you didn't know your father really well. You'd only seen him a handful of times in your life, and then he ended up dying on the younger end of your life. And so it's like, it's easy for you to be able to say that how this grief has just kept her in this revolving pattern, because you yourself could have attached to a story like that and held on to this grief of whatever this experience was by not having a prevalent father in your life.
Yeah, by not shedding stories that we carry with us. This message that we carry, we keep ourselves trapped in this never-ending story, this repeating over and over of things that we need to shed and move forward, because that's where our power is. And it's a lot easier to keep moving forward when you're not stuck.
Well, it's interesting that you're saying that about the message you carry with you. Is Jack, you were the one that coined that message you carry with you, and I love that. That's down to the same where you just have these valuable nuggets where they're gems, like the idea, are we revolving or evolving? What is the message we carry with us? It's we know the power of affirmations, and what we keep affirming to the world becomes our experience, but the message we carry with us is truly like this center core point, that the story, how we're living our life, how we're interacting with our world. And I had said to Jack very early on when I met him, it's like, as I was getting to know this experience of not really having his father in his life and all of this, I'm like, wow, this is truly not a message you carry with you. It doesn't come out as anything that's been an excuse or a holding back. It's always been, it is what it is. instead of a leaning back as this was wrong, or a leaning forward, or if this could be different in the future.
Yeah,
and I admire that about you, Jack. I do. I really do.
It's dangerous to drag the past into the present. The way that the past can best serve us is by remembering the tools, developing tools that we've learned from the past that we can use in the now. Like we learn skills, life tools, negotiate, how to negotiate a better, weave your way better through life. And the thing where it can cause us all kinds of harm is when we bring these messages and things, life is hard, the world is out to get me, relationships are difficult, all these kind of things that we carry that just do not serve us. And it's like, why do we want to live in that way? And it's funny when other people are trapped there, that they try to it just doesn't go in their ears right when they hear something, and they try to pull you into where they feel comfortable, because they feel comfortable in this past. The future or the now can be a lot more scary. The past they know.
Yeah.
So that's a very comfortable place to be, in the past. But that's not where your power is. That's not where you're going to have your most shining moments. It's this sharpness of getting into the now and reacting now. And CJ is Ann's oldest, and he had a bad day at baseball yesterday. And he's like, I wasn't acting like a major. I wasn't
an all-star. He got picked for the all-stars, and so he's in his mind now. He wants to just be that all-star that he was chosen for this team, and he wants to shine as an all-star. And it's really almost paralyzing him in his abilities, because he's so locked into this future performance of being an all-star.
When he had a bad day yesterday. I mean, it's just that every athlete is going to have a bad day. I mean, that just happens. But if he attaches to his yesterday and say, I'm not sharp now, I'm rusty, I'm this, I'm that, then that's going to affect his performance of today. And today is a new day. We get to wake up in the morning, and we have this free will to choose how we want to live our lives, the kind of person that we want to be, and move forward from there.
Yeah, it's interesting, because then he wanted to go to the ball field today before we started our radio show, and then we get an emergency call before we start our radio show that he has now severely cut his finger, which is his pitching finger. And I do believe that he's this fear about wanting to perform is actually attracting his ability to hinder this, because I said to him, he started crying when he came in the door. I'm like, we taped up his finger, bandaged it all up, and we're like, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. And he was crying, and it's like, your place that you need to go to right now is your power is in getting calm and still and knowing the truth. And that's what Jack was trying to say to him yesterday is, CJ, you are an all-star athlete. That's why you got picked on the all-stars. It's still in you. And just because you had a bad day does not mean it has anything to do with tomorrow. And so it's interesting. Now he's having to dig deep into this place of getting to the knowing again.
Right. And I'm attempting to get him in this place where he understands that he loves this, and he needs to go out and do it as if he loves it, and not put all this pressure on himself
yes.
about performing this way or that way. It's like there's a thing that's a love of the game. When you love what you do, then it is very high vibrational, high energy.
Jack was at a speaking engagement. I was listening to him speak, and he was talking about how that if he carried the message of the past, of wherever his relationship with his mother was growing up, and wherever her own growth was in that process, he would miss out in the beauty of this magnificent person of who his mother is today. And, I feel like that when I heard him saying that, he was saying that too often people lose the beauty of who someone is today because they're still stuck in the past of holding on to all this stuff about who that person was 20 years ago, 10 years ago, whenever it was. And he was saying that I have a great, thriving, beautiful relationship with my mom today because it's in today.
Yeah, you're not dragging the past into it. And people, especially attached to their parents, about blaming them for certain things in their childhood, and that's why they are who they are today. And it's like, get over it. I mean, let it go.
And that's what he was saying in this talk, is it's like, if I did that, and we all have things we could attach to that we could try to blame things to our parents. I mean, everybody's got their stories because our parents are evolving in who they are, and we all have these places. And if we could just get into this place of embracing our relationships today in the now. And I just thought it was so beautiful, Jack, when you were telling this to people. It's like, if I did any of that, I would be missing out on this wonderful person that my mom is today.
Yeah. I mean, God, I see it all too often. If my parents wouldn't have fed me the way they fed me, if they wouldn't have talked to me the way they talked to me, if they wouldn't have punished me the way they punished me, if they wouldn't have done this, if they wouldn't, and all right, just pretend that didn't happen, because it didn't happen today. How much of that actually happened today? And the thing is, the ability to transform and to be fresh and new and wake up fresh and new that's a place where you can get excited about what is today, what's today going to bring, and instead of being in like, oh, another day, it's going to be like yesterday, and Mondays are always like this, and Tuesdays are always like this, and Wednesdays, I mean, it's a little bit better because it's halfway through the week. We don't have to play that. We can. It's not like a new chapter in an old book. You can start a brand new book, and you can have the title of that book be of your choosing.
Yeah, it's interesting because, just being married for so long in a previous, relationship that has all of its energy patterns that created it to, in the end, to not work in a way that felt good to my life. When Jack and I were starting out in our relationship, and even through progressing, and anything that would look familiar to me, I would be so scared, like, I do not want this to be anything like what I had before. Jack would just say to me, Ann, new chapter, new book. You are a new chapter in a new book, and this is a new book. We are a new book. And it's like we can give ourselves permission to do that, to realize that today is a new book, a new chapter, and we can write it however we want.
So let's get into some of the how-tos, and I'm a big advocate for how-tos because many people talk about the problem. You hear all the time people talking about the problem. Problem is this. If it wasn't for, but the deal is, not very often do they say, "Hey, here's how you do it." And I like hearing how people do it. That's what I like to hear. I want to hear about the problem and rehash the problem. And it's like there's a time where it's what's the practical? You can talk about what the problem is, and very little about what the solution is and the results that you're going to get from it. So let's really dive deep, and let's dive deep.
The message you carry with you, I just want to say this is so profound. This message is into our cellular level that when we first started coming on these 11 principles of Empower 11, and the message you carry with you was one of the profound steps of progression that we found in this How to Empower 11 in Your Life, we actually began developing a whole course on how to change the message you carry with you. So I just wanted to say that because I feel it's so powerful. It's so powerful that right now today, if you walked away from the show and you said, am I evolving or revolving? If you just took and looked at the message you're carrying with you, you'd start to know how to make changes.
Yeah. And when things come up in your life, you're like, wait a minute. I've done this before. I want to evolve. I don't want to revolve. So how do I break this? And just the awareness of it is so important because, as I've discussed before, when awareness happens, healing automatically wants to take place. When you are cut and your body is aware that it is cut, the awareness starts to send the right stuff to the right place in your body in order to do the healing.
It's interesting when we're talking about this idea of evolving versus revolving and the how-to, and how are we speaking to our world? How are we interacting? Right now, currently, I'm in the process of doing some physical therapy to get some improved gait training because I have a new leg that I got last year. For those of you that know the story or don't know the story, I got ran over by a lawnmower when I was 2 and had a lot of corrective surgery. So anyway, I have a partial prosthesis on my right leg.
She's got a new bionic leg.
One of the most powerful things when I was at physical therapy this past week is what she was saying to me with learning my new gait training and how to walk better and more improved and more efficiently. As she said to me, and we have to disassociate all these muscles that you used in the past for the type of limb that you had in the past that is no longer relevant to the now. And I was like, when she was saying this, it's like, wow, that's so good. I'm going to talk about this with Empower 11 in our radio show, because how much by default are we just carrying all this extra energy and ways that we're doing things and how we're interacting and speaking with our world and what we're doing that really is not necessary anymore, and we just need to begin to disassociate it and really start targeting down to what is relevant to our evolvement today.
So how we speak to the world, the language that we use, and saying things like I always do that, or that's just part of who I am. It does not have to be that. It does not have to be what you did or said or whatever happened 2 years ago, 2 months ago, 2 days ago does not have to be your reality today. And today is where your power is, so stay in that.
Well, we're gonna wrap up with our Empower Wealth track that is actually for sale now on iTunes. And I'm just going to give this challenge or this awareness look or this insightful way to just even look at your language and how often you're speaking in terms of lack to your world. Just starting to get awareness with that so you can shift and orient it to much more of an evolved state versus a revolving relationship that's based on lack with wealth.
Yeah, watch what you're saying, your language, and ask yourself, sometimes I'll say something and I'm like, wow, that wasn't a very empowering statement. Like, just the realization that, hey, I shouldn't speak to myself like that. And you need to speak kindly to yourself. Give yourself a break. Be your own best friend. Because all too often we are like, I need to try harder. I did this. Oh, here I did. I screwed up again. And that isn't the kind of supportive language that your best friend needs to say to you. And you need to be, that is like, I cannot stress this enough. This is very important, that you are kind to yourself. This place of this powerful way to speak to your own self can change so much. If you just walked away with this little bit about, hey, I am no longer going to say anything negative to myself. I am going to be loving and supportive to myself. And when I speak to myself, it will reflect that. You will have some instrumental changes in evolving into the spiritual place that you were designed to be.
Well, it's like talking to yourself as if like you are this precious child that you only want the best for, and speaking in those loving, nurturing ways. And it reminds me of last night. CJ was so frustrated with himself and the errors that he was making in baseball, yet here for this all-star team that he's on. And he was really wanting to like not make himself feel good. I was screwing up. I'm not being an all-star. And then that's when Jack started telling him, you really need to be kind to yourself and talk loving to yourself because you are an all-star. That's why you're on the all-star, and shifting your conversation that whatever happened today does not reflect who you are. And it's like, if we can give that easily, see, well, of course, yes, I would do this to my child who I love and I care about. We have to give ourselves that same gift.
Okay, so another really good how-to for me is that I stay hungry. I stay hungry in my spiritual growth. It is like food. It's not like I can only eat food once a week. It's a daily thing. And I look for things that I can daily have in my life that give me inspiration, that give me, this place of learning and growing and staying on that track. So look at those things. What are you feeding yourself today? I mean, today it can be this radio show. What is it? What is it tomorrow? What is it this evening? Are you meditating? Are you doing these things that really help you? Because all too often people do these things. It helps them, and then they stop doing them.
Oh, listening to you, Jack, it was making me want to say something, is that people wait till they're starving. And how does starving show up in our lives? Starving shows up as a crisis, shows up as a broken down relationship. It shows up in these ways that really need attention and fixing, and then we get sharp, and then we start doing those things that are good for us, and we nourish ourselves, only then to get ourselves in a place where it's like we kind of like coast, and we stop doing those very things that put us into an empowering place again. So ending that up and down and just getting into this expanding, growing place where we're feeding ourselves regularly the nourishment we need to stay in our spiritual growth of evolvement.
So, and give me for instance, what do you do like more on a daily basis to keep yourself in, to help yourself stay in an evolving state?
Definitely meditating is number one for me, because I find that we live in a very noisy time, and how to reduce some of the noisiness of the world. And the noisiness shows up in a magnitude of ways. It shows up in how, the constant bombardment of media. It shows up in the constant yes and no's to life. And when we can find ourselves in this place where we give ourselves time to meditate, to get still, to get to that original knowing and that truth, what happens is we then influence the power around us in much more of an atonement and vibrational harmony, where we are alive to our dreams. It's hard to stay alive to our dreams when we constantly have all this noise and we can't hear what is the truth for our own original knowing of our life.
Mm. Some of the things that I do is, I look for things that can feed me. And in this looking, I'll surf for them on the internet. I like to listen to inspirational talks, and I really love the TED channel on YouTube. I mean, some of those TED talks are just they really cause me to go on the, to really look at things in new and interesting ways. And I think that's really important. Another thing that I do daily is I'm creative, so I think this being in this place of creativity is really important. And I think, listen, we were created by a creator with the inherent ability, physically to create, but we can also create with our minds. And I think it's a very spiritual thing, and I kind of get it now. I didn't really get it while people, sit there and knit and stuff, but they're creating something, and I think that's a really, really cool place to be. It's a really cool tool to stay in a place of spiritual growth.
Well, it's meditative. Being in a creative space to allow actually infuses more of a meditative state in us, in a place of flow and stillness.
Yeah. So these hobbies and things that people have when they're making these, I don't know, whatever people do, woodworking and building RC cars, whatever they do. I mean, those are very important, and they are things that it's not like, I don't even see them as like a luxury. I see them as something that is very important for my spiritual growth. So I see the difference in behaviors when, like, I have this friend in Michigan, and he likes to work on cars. I mean, he likes to do custom stuff and restore old cars, and he builds grills by hand, and does all this stuff. And when he's got a project that he's working on, he's happy, and he's got this glow to him. And when he's not, it seems a little less light coming from him.
Well, I want to say something real fast about this idea of leaning too far back or too far forward, is that, and then how that integrates with this idea of we're meant to be creative and using our minds and using this channel of creativity, is that this leaning too far back, this leaning too far forward, it takes us out of our tall, upright, vertical power posture that we have, and we're meant to live as human beings with this capacity of our mind. And the horizontal, where you're leaning too far back or forward, is a less empowering state. It's more of our primitive state. It's more of that lower level, animalistic, where there's not that same capacity to be of high level thinking. And I am inspired by the fact that I think we are truly honoring and doing the glory of what we were meant to do when we get more into this actualized high vertical posture position where we're using our minds and our body, and everything is succinct from human beings. We're not meant to say, oh, that's the human condition, and it's as if it's like something wrong. No, it's something that's meant to be actualized in this miraculous, marvelous, creative way. And that's why I truly believe, Jack, when you say we're meant to, our bodies are actually meant to create life, and on top of that, we have a mind that's beyond the capacity of any species to use this creative mind and the faculties in such a genius, expanding, evolving way for our fellow humanity and custodians of this world.
Right. That's awesome. Another thing is how we spend our time. Look at how are we spending our time. TV watching, things that dull us is not high vibrational, and those things can end up taking a lot of our day, a lot of time away that we could be doing something that is more inspiring and keeps us moving forward. When we're watching TV, very little of that is not a real moving forward type of thing.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is that the way to look at this on the how-tos is, am I evolving or revolving? Is the activity I'm doing right now, is it really passive? And is it just pacifying my moment? And if it's passive, it's not active. I mean, it doesn't mean we have to be doing, but it's like when you're talking about like reading or doing something inspiring, that's actually an active participation with our world that's infusing us in a much more stronger, higher vibration. And even like last night, just lighting candles and putting on, quiet music and reading a good book, that's not passive. That was an active, restful place that was fueling and nurturing my spirit. So we can look at, are we evolving? Are we revolving our energy patterns? Passive usually keeps us in the same place. We're doing something with our time and energy. Was just sitting there watching TV and we're just passing time. And it keeps us more in a passive place instead of an evolving, expanding, active place with our life.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many cooler things we could be doing. We could be making love. You know, I mean, that is like a very spiritual. That's a very good place to be. You know, like plenty of love in a couple's relationship, and making love in the daytime and nooners and, all those great, things that, I mean, that's a beautiful thing about being in a really healthy relationship.
I just love this. I love that when you talk this way too, Jack, because I know that I read this blog and it was all about like this family who actually went on this challenge where they were getting rid of the TV, and they actually permanently end up getting rid of the TV. But one of the things that he was talking about is when I got rid of the TV, he said, I noticed I was spending more time talking with my kids and I was spending more time making love to my wife. And this was back, in between where I was not with my former husband anymore, and I was, more alone, and I wasn't with Jack yet. And I thought, now this is a man who's really speaking my language. So I love it now when Jack talks this way, because we are so congruent on that.
So another thing I want to bring out in this how-tos is getting out of your comfort zone, because this revolving place can be very comfortable. It's patterns that we're very used to and we're very comfortable there. It's based a lot on the past, and when we become present to the now, or we get out in front of our lives, some of that stuff can be a little scary and uncomfortable. And when you're getting uncomfortable that you're getting out of the place of revolving.
Repeating, revolving, all those little R's that are repetitive and the same, and you're getting into this unexpected surprises and more in this energy, and you're getting into all these expanding, exciting E-words of evolvement for ourselves and our lives.
E. Less R's and more E's.
I don't know if you can appreciate, because he's really stretching and expanding as he's saying this. So it's...
So, and then staying conscious about being alive to our dreams. Are we moving towards something that we desire in our lives? Are we placing the building blocks? Are we putting the bricks in place in order to build this what our dreams? Our dreams don't usually, achieving our dreams isn't really like a snap. It's more like it takes time to, and sometimes we don't feel like we're moving as far forward as we think. It's like when I decided I was going to swim across Higgins Lake, I'm swimming, and, I'm looking, and it looks so far, like I'm not making any progress. But then when I actually took a look back, I thought, wow, all right, I'm going someplace, I'm moving. And that's just a place of, this focus, this clarity. This is my dream, this is my purpose, this is where I'm going. And making sure that you're continuing to build in that way.
Well, I love, Jack, how you always say one foot in front of the other. And that's really, even the Tao and all this one step at a time. I mean, all these very famous ancient pieces of wisdom always come from that place of, you're doing it brick by brick, one step at a time. And I love, Jack, how you always say one foot in front of the other. And that's how we build our dreams. And that's how we stay alive to our dreams, is if we're just looking at, one foot in front of the other. And we just keep moving in that direction. We do end up in this evolving, expanding life versus revolving.
All right. So we are about ready to play our Empower Wealth audio. This Empower Wealth audio is something these words came to me, and Ann helped me a little bit with this, and then the music itself I kind of threw together in a way that started to feel a flow to me. I mean, a lot of times we can purchase background music tracks, but this one, I felt inspired to do it myself, and then I used a little bit of right brain, left brain technology where, it kind of shifts back and forth, and I think it came out pretty well.
Yeah, and it's optimized the right and left brain technology when there is headphones listening to it, which you can get it down on iTunes to be able to do that with easily. And we picked the Empower Wealth because a lot of people want to get more into an evolving energy versus a revolving energy with their wealth. So wherever you're at, driving in your car, whether you're sitting at a desk, take a few deep breaths, allow yourself to get still. Let yourself get present to this way that in this moment in time, this is all that matters, and you are worthy and you are deserving as a child of God and of this universe to be empowered with wealth on the highest level.
Money, wealth, riches, abundance, it all starts from the inside first. You have the ability to change your financial destiny. You are worthy of true wealth. Wealth in love, wealth of happiness, wealth of friendships, wealth in health, wealth in life purpose, wealth in all the ways that enriches the gift of your life. Become that which you desire. Be in the truth of wealth and all the opportunities it grants you. Own your place of abundance. Not just the action of attraction, but the ownership of it. Believe in yourself to go beyond barriers. You are rich from your insides. Your outsides are a match to this inside knowing. Become excited as you know this power is owned by you. Be comforted as you know this power is now yours. Your financial freedom is owned by you. Money supports you living your best life. The health of your wealth is healing and supportive. Freedom is your right. You have the right to live your richest and most fulfilling life. There is more than enough abundance for you. Live in this place of abundance. Own your abundance. Be rich. Prosperity becomes effortless as you continue to practice this way of being. Your life is a gift, and more gifts flow as wealth is bestowed upon you. Greatness is easily achieved as that which supports you boldly steps forward. Everything you need shows up when you need it. When you are ready, when you allow it, when you are wealthy on the inside. The world you live in is full of abundance. It is time to put the fun in funding your life, the fun in funding your dreams, the fun in funding the lifestyle that you desire, the fun in funding the gifts you give. Enjoy the cycle of circulation as wealth flows, the coming and going and always returning with more. Your insides know there is more than enough. Breathe it in and let it go. Play your way to wealth. Play as you pay and you get paid. Every day is payday. Be happy as you live a paid in full life. Money, wealth, riches, abundance. You own it from your insides, and your outside world, it's becoming a match. You own your financial destiny. You own your worthiness to live in true wealth.